Thank you all for coming on relatively short notice. I spent last year during the campaign saying the most important thing we can do as a state to get this state growing and moving again is to show people we can get our fiscal house in order, show people we can get a budget done on time, and show taxpayers of the state that we can live within our means. And I'm very pleased to be able to announce today that we have a handshake agreement with the leaders in the House and the Senate. We're going to be able to get this done. And we're going to have an honest budget done on time so people can plan accordingly. And I got to tell you, first time I've been in this cycle, I've been really impressed with the leadership, the top leadership of Probst and finance, what we've been able to put together. Paul Mounds and Melissa, they haven't slept in a few days. And they've been working their heart out to make sure that we can honor this promise to each and every one of you. It's a budget I'm proud of on a number of different fronts. You know, we inherited a deficit of over $3.5 billion in the next biennium. And we're going to get a budget that's balanced without raising tax rates on anybody. It's a budget where we said, look, we're going to try and modernize our sales tax structure, and working collaboratively with our friends in the legislature, we've begun to do that when we look at the digital economy. In fact, you want to know why sales tax revenues are already up compared to what we had expected. That's because of sales tax applying to e-commerce and what we're going to do going forward there. I said I'm going to honor the rainy day fund, and we're not going to be robbing from that fund. And we're doing that. In fact, we'll be adding money to it, so we'll have over $2 billion in the rainy day fund by the end of this fiscal year. So we're well positioned in terms of being able to weather a downturn if that was to happen. I said we're also going to have a budget that keeps faith with the future of the state, and that starts with education for me. And Susan and I said we're going to make investments in education, and that's what we've done. We're going to have, you know, every mayor, every superintendent of schools all told me the same thing. I don't expect to get a lot more money from you, Gov, in this next budget, but get it to me on time so I can plan accordingly. Not only are you getting it on time so you can plan accordingly, but our cities, our most distressed schools are going to be getting more money, a lot more money, $40 million and $80 million in the next 2 years. You add that to what we're doing with the generosity of the Dalio Foundation, money that's going to go to those kids who are disconnected and disadvantaged. We're going to do everything we can to make sure they're well prepared for this 21st century economy. We've been working hand in glove with the business community in terms of training to make sure that we're training people for the jobs that are out there, what we've got to do. We looked at the structural deficits as well. We wanted to be serious about showing people what we're doing there. And I think you're going to see in this budget that we're finding significant savings in employee health care costs, not only in this first biennium, money over $45 million in this first half, and then for the second half of the biennium, you know, we'll be up to $150 million in total savings on health care state employee plans. We've worked hard to fix what was a real risk to us in terms of the teachers' pension fund. And if there was an economic downturn, how much that could have cost the state and how that would have jeopardized, to some degree, the pensions for a lot of our teachers who have earned it and deserve it. So working with Treasurer Wooden, we put in place a strategy that's going to allow us to smooth that out over a period of time, reduce our costs, and most importantly, take that cliff, take that risk out of the teachers' pension fund going forward. Other thing on healthcare it's worth remembering is we're expanding coverage to another 4,000 folks under Medicaid. So slowly over time we can provide the universal health care that's a right people need and deserve. We're going to get this voted on, Marty will tell us exactly when, but pretty darn soon, and early, and on time. A budget that shows that we're living within our means, and a budget that invests in our future. And I just got to say before handing it to Marty, I want to thank each and every one of the people who are standing behind me, because it took rolling up our sleeves, it took some compromises, and we got it done. Without further ado, President Pro Tem of the Senate.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Thank you. Thank you so much, Governor. This is really an exciting time because we have come to a meeting of the minds and a handshake agreement that Senator Duff and I and Senator Austin and Senator Fonfara will strongly recommend to our caucus that it will be approved. So I think right now we can say we have 4 votes, and then we will move on. We will move on to build from there. And but as at this point, obviously, I'm not going to get into any specifics beyond what the governor has outlined, because it is a matter for the caucuses to hear about and to discuss. But I think it's important. It does all of the points that the governor mentioned are critically important. There were things that we really needed to address in this budget, and we believe we have. We're excited to have this done, and that we will get it voted on within the regular session, which has been our goal from the very beginning. And again, now we have the actual drafting of things that exist in concept to make sure that we get the language right on every single point, and to get it into an actual bill. But we're confident that will be done within the next few days, and we will not be playing beat the clock on the last night of the session as we were in 2015. And we won't be going till Halloween as we were in 2017. So we're confident this will be done in an orderly process with time to spare before the end. So I'd like to at this point call up my dear friend and colleague, the Speaker of the House, Joe Harris-Simowitz.
So what I liked the most about this process, it really was a team approach. Our chairs from the House, Representative Walker and Representative Rojas, really worked well, obviously, with their co-chairs, but also how we were embraced by the governor's office. It was a real change to where we were able to air our differences and do so in a way that was still respectful for one another, and to be able to do it on time. It's really cool. And what are we doing in this budget? And what did the governor allow us to do? Because the governor's leadership was key to securing the hospital deal. Without the hospital deal, this budget would have been changed dramatically. And that's something that we couldn't do before, but it was done by his administration. But he also allowed us to preserve our phasing out of the taxes on Social Security and pension. We hear a lot of times that many people leave the state of Connecticut for more tax-friendlier climates, especially in retirement. Well, we're taking that off the table. We're going to tell them they're welcome to stay here, and we're going to exempt their Social Security and their pensions. What else are we doing? We're trying to keep our best and brightest here. We're going to undertake an aggressive workforce development plan with the governor's leadership, the public-private partnerships, to ensure that our kids get the training they need and stay here in the state of Connecticut. This is a great day for all of us in this room right now, because we came together and did the task of coming up with a budget, but it really is a great day for the state of Connecticut. We're moving forward in the time frame allowed and laying out a blueprint from where we want the state to go. So it really was inspirational process. I'm glad to have the leadership of the governor and the 2 best chairs of the committees with Tony Walker and Jason Rojas, and my partner, Matt Ritter. So thank you.
So what's the phase out of the Social Security and retirement income? How many years?
We kept it what we did with the bipartisan budget last year. It was I apologize. It was difficult because the budget constraints and the deficits looming, and it would have been easy to postpone them or phase them out, but we felt as though we made a commitment to the residents to do the phase out, and we'll continue forward with that process.
What are the all funds bottom line, and what is the budget gaps that were closed?
So we had a $3.7 billion budget gap. We are finalizing all the numbers currently as you're in this room, but in essence, it's still an approximate $20 billion budget. It's fully compliant with our spending cap. The rate of growth year over year is equal to or less than inflation. And so again, as our governor and leaders have indicated, we feel that this is a responsible balanced budget. It's balanced, it's honest, it's gimmick-free, and it's a strong path to get us through the next biennium.
So you said that you're only 43.8, that was about where you guys were. So
correct.
We're talking about 44.
Correct.
So you said that you were depositing only $2 billion into the rainy day fund, and estimates show that $2.6 billion should be deposited into the rainy day fund. So are you using $600
Sure,
million?
great question. So we closed June 30th, 2018 with about a $1.185 billion rainy day fund balance. We are making the $885 million deposit relative to the volatility cap. You'll recall that's due to any favorability over a certain threshold for estimates and finals, things of that nature. And then from our last comptroller's letter, you'll note that we had about a $571 million operating surplus. Consistent with the governor's budget, $381 million is reserved to address our teachers' pension reamortization, where those dollars will go into a reserve to for the protection of bondholders. So that'll just be sitting in a reserve and eventually will return to the budget reserve fund. The remainder of that operating surplus will be utilized to address a potential tentative agreement with the hospital. So by and large, use of operating surplus is to mitigate against the cliff we're going to face with the teachers' pension system, as well as to satisfy and resolve significant litigation that we are exposed to with the hospitals.
Did you reach an agreement on the capital gains tax?
This budget does not include the capital gains tax.
What about having towns and cities pay some into the teacher pensions? No?
Not a component.
Back to the hospitals. If I run my math there, it's 190 million for the hospitals. Will there be money from other funds to add to that, or is the hospital deal approximately 190 million?
I cannot comment on the particulars of that hospital deal until we have a final executed agreement, but certainly, as indicated, a component of that arrangement would be a significant use of surplus to the tune of approximately $160 million.
Melissa, just as a timing matter, will you be able to adopt the budget in regular session, or will you have to also come back after the hospital deal's been fully implemented and do some corrective legislation?
We will be coming back in special session. As you know, we are required to bring any settlements before the General Assembly for approval. We will be including language that indicates if an agreement is reached, that we will resume in special session after the legislature has approved the settlement and make the necessary revenue and expenditure adjustments.
Would that include some modifications to the hospital provider tax proposal that the governor laid out in February?
It could include modifications to revenues and expenditures that are reflected in the governor's as well as in the legislature's budget.
At the beginning of the session, I remember that the governor's budget included a lot more expansion of the state sales tax. That's been narrowed down quite a bit. And I'm not going to ask you to spell out all the things, but how much money do you expect to generate from some of those things like dry cleaning?
Sure. In total, it's just shy of $50 million by the second year of the biennium. So approximately $50 million.
Well, what are some of the things that have been eliminated that were in the original budget? We know about sugary drinks. What else?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, and I will speak for Marty and I, we've had brief overview with some of the caucus members. We do need to sit down with our entire caucus and go through it. One of the commitments we make to them is they're not going to find out in the news what they should be finding out from us. So this is the announcement of the tentative agreement. We will sit and go through line by line. They will get their town runs, and then again, we'll make ourselves available to answer additional questions.
Will we get the town runs?
At some point, yeah.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
That matters to the local budget makers.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of this,
I just want to make sure that the approach chairs or the finance chairs or anybody else want to say anything? Chance?
My job, we need to go vote. I get something done. That's my job. Matt, there's a microphone.
Couple of things too. Are you confident that the progressive wing of the caucus, especially the House, will get on board with this? Do you have the votes? And when do you think that the
I will say something. This divide does not exist. It's never existed. Our caucus, we got more round of applauses for our chairs when they presented this budget than I've seen on any bill in a long, long time. It'll be overwhelmingly supported by the Democratic caucus, we believe. You could be moderate, liberal, in between. Everyone understands there's compromise in the budget, but there is no divide in our caucus. We are a united team. We're ready to vote on this budget.
And I think we're voting in the House now, so we should go.
when can we expect it to happen, the debate and the vote? Saturday, Sunday? Do we
Before Wednesday.
Before June 5th.
Before June 5th. Hey, thank you, everybody.
Let's go. Thanks, Governor.
I got